my mind was blown by the fact that India wasn't just Punjabis everywhere.
Oh, yeah. In Canada, you see all Punjabis.
Yeah. Recently, I've had people, influencers, actresses, come to me and say, hey, these directors, they told me that, I have to compromise or whatever. And the fact that I said no, they said, okay, well, you're never going to get ahead in this industry because that's how it works. His family has been accepting of the fact that I didn't want to get married. So we're actually not married. We've been living together for 11 years and working together. We have 2 cats together. We have the company together. And so for us, we said, okay, that's enough paperwork. When it comes to a global scale, the Marathi market size is actually quite large. It's the 15th largest language in the world, but the film industry is not doing well.
Hi, I'm Darshana Shah, and my guest for today took a flight from Vancouver and somehow landed in the heart of Marathi entertainment. Paula McGlynn isn't just a writer, director, and producer. She's the brain behind Bhadipa, the crew that made Marathi digital content cool. How did a Canadian end up shaping the Marathi content scene? Let's find out. Hi Paula, I am Darshana from Mumbai. I am a Gujarati Mumbai, and of course I don't say welcome, I say Kim Cho.
Hi Darshana, I am Paula. I'm a Canadian Maharashtrian, so I don't say Kemcho, I say Kasakai.
So much fun, and thank you so much Paula for being here in my show. It is awesome. I was reading about you, seeing your journey, a lot of content work. But what really got me curious is I read that you are a passionate sound and music designer. You've done your career with BFA and major in film. You had everything going for you back there in Canada and Vancouver. You were already a dream for many people who are starting out in this whole industry of filmmaking. And you left all of that and you came straight to Mumbai. Was it like, it sounds like a DDLG, Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge. You fell in love, you came here. What was it?
So I was very passionate about sound design and sound recording for films as something that I knew would pay my rent in Vancouver, which is a very expensive city to live in.
Sure.
But because Vancouver, it's part of Canada. Canada has a majorly government subsidized film industry. Imagine NFDC sponsoring 80% of Indian films. That's the kind of setup where you have to keep applying for grants. A lot of the film work in Vancouver is services work to United States productions. So I would have probably gone ahead and started a career doing sound design, doing sound recording, and following my real passion, which is, making documentaries, writing, directing on the weekends, whenever I get some time, whenever I've saved up enough money to sponsor my own projects, until I've got enough credits that I can apply for those government grants. So I was getting ready for that, and I got an email from my film studies professor, and she said that there's a Canadian government-funded program to tie together Canada and India's business relations by sending students to India to do internships.
Oh,
and
awesome.
the goal was that you get exposure. Maybe when you go back to Canada, you have some new future business contacts, and you will strengthen the Canada-India relationship that way. And I was supposed to come and do an internship with a VFX studio in Mumbai for 6 weeks and expenses paid. So I said, great, free trip to India. Why not? I didn't really know anything about the industry. I wasn't, a big Bollywood fan or anything, but I just, I'm a fairly adventurous person. I love to, do solo travel. So I applied and I got the grant.
Wow, interesting. So you, with your just passion and the city of dream, you came around just to dabble and see, and here you settled down. You actually started a whole, Marathi digital company called Bhadipa. So tell me, what is the mission and purpose of Bhadipa? What are you all out there doing?
Okay, so there's 2 layers of Bhadipa's mission. The first is very selfish. Selfishly, as 3 young aspiring filmmakers, we were frustrated with, hitting the glass ceiling of being outsiders in the Marathi film industry. And we said, people are telling us our ideas aren't going to work. It's not mainstream enough. and we just disagreed. So on that basis, we said, the best way to get our voices out there and prove people wrong that, there is an audience for the kind of stuff we want to make is to start a YouTube channel. So that was the first. We said, we'll just, develop our own following. We will test our ideas and see how it works with like the younger generation of Marathi speakers in entertainment. And that worked out really well for us. But the second thing we did was more from a larger cultural perspective. The Marathi language, there was a lot of discussion at that time that the Marathi language was sort of going out of fashion. It wasn't really cool for young people to speak in Marathi. They were preferring to speak in English or Hindi.
I think that's for all the regional languages in India currently.
Yeah, but there's quite a deep-seated fear amongst Marathi people because it shares the state with Bollywood.
Right.
And even the top talent from the Marathi industry, if they wanted to get paid their due, and if they were very talented, they would immediately be poached by the Bollywood industry to come and work over there. So there was like this drain of talent, and there was this new world of international entertainment coming in with OTT platforms. People were downloading Game of Thrones and watching it. People were watching Money Heist in Spanish. People didn't seem to care about the language, so long as the content was good. And so for us, what we wanted to do with Bhadipa was make vernacular cool again by making young pop culture entertainment in the Marathi language, which served the Marathi language best, say like through comedy. Like Marathi is extremely good in comedy. Pula Deshpande is one of the great, literary giants of India. Yeah. Music, Lata Mangeshkar is one of them. Ajay Atul. So comedy, music, literature, theater, these are all places where Marathi thrives. But the film and television industry was and is still, relatively skewed to the older generation. And there needed to be like a new wave of younger people coming in and younger entertainment. And so Bhadipa was the first Marathi YouTube channel. We eventually started and expanded into 3 channels. And thankfully now today we're not the only ones. And there's like a whole world of content creators. And people, thankfully, I don't know if we inspired or just kind of showed them that it's not that hard. But it was our hope that we would be the first, but we definitely wouldn't be the last. And we would kind of create a new sort of wave of young voices in Marathi entertainment.
Interesting, Paula. So you made some bold choices. You have, left your grassroots. You came to a new industry and picked up a regional entertainment industry, which was already struggling with Bollywood losing its identity, and married a Maharashtrian at the same time. So marrying into a different culture comes with its own quirks, and it is different, right? I mean, so how how was this one thing from Sarang how did you guys really make it more comfortable for each other and for you to settle down here?
Yeah, I mean, well, the first thing is one thing that's been great for us is that his family has been accepting of the fact that I didn't want to get married. So we're actually not married. we've been living together for 11 years.
Lovely.
And working together. We have 2 cats together, and we have the company together. And so for us, we said, okay, that's enough paperwork. We don't need to add another contract on top of that. So, the fact that his family was so accepting of it, first of all, me not being Maharashtrian or Indian or even speaking the same language, they were very much encouraging and knew where I was coming from. So his family was extremely supportive. And on the other side of that, my family was also super supportive. I'm actually, my sister, you can't see, but my sister's here today. She's visiting me from Canada. And my mom's come here like 3 times. And it's been really nice to have their support as well. Because I think when you travel over an ocean and continents and you go to another country, it can be very difficult unless your family's fully supporting you.
And it can get lonely, right? I mean, you are absolutely an outsider over here. So
yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think I probably got a pass with my family because my parents were immigrants as well. They moved to Canada in the
Wow.
80s. So they also know that they can't tell me not to do that.
So follow your dreams, and you've been a non-conformist from that point. It's amazing. See, this is where, and now coming back to Bhadipa, was there a single aha moment, when you were creating this platform? It started on YouTube and creating a Marathi content. Like, was there some great game-changing idea? Is that why you feel that we need to, make this platform so it's a game changer?
Yes, actually, sort of the aha moment for me, it happened while we were at Fiki Frames in Powai. We were there, we were shopping around scripts, trying to get producers to come on board, a very ambitious project, which was very naive of us to think anyone would give us at that time. But it was, a period musical fiction that Sarang and I had written together when we wanted to co-direct. And nobody was kind of giving us the time of day, which was fair enough. Even today, it's going to be very hard to pull that off. So while we were doing that, banging our heads against the wall, we went into a conference of some talent which had come from the Hinglish YouTube space, where TVF, AIB, and different players from that space were talking about the opportunities and the soon-to-be explosion in digital. And on the other side of the conference, there was a seminar happening about, is this the new wave of Marathi cinema? Because a film that had just released, Natya Samrat, which is a very famous Marathi play, and Nana Patekar had acted in the lead, that had, I think, crossed 40 or 50 crores revenue at that time, which was very exciting because the Marathi industry then had gone through a fairly bad slump phase. Okay. And I turned to Sarang. I said, okay, so, Marathi cinema is coming up. There's going to be more opportunity. At the same time, we're talking about Digital India. Jio is launching with their, 3G plans, 4G, cheap internet. There's going to be an explosion pan-India. I wonder, what's going to happen with the Marathi space. Are there any Marathi YouTube channels out there? And we did a search, and we couldn't find any YouTube channels that were dedicated for original Marathi content. There was no podcasts, there was no interview shows, there was just, the film studios had their channels where they put out trailers and songs, but there were no creators in the Marathi digital space. And that sort of got the wheels turning, and I started doing some research, and I learned that Maharashtra has a population of 100 million, and globally there are around 112 million Marathi speakers. And on an Indian scale, and I faced this a lot when we sort of put the business plan together and said, this is, a huge opportunity. There's a huge amount of youth, like 60% of Indians are youth, technically at that time. Maybe now millennials can't call ourselves youth anymore, but back then there was a lot of us, and there still are a lot of youth. And we knew, like, if all of our Marathi friends are complaining about the fact that they don't like Marathi television, they're not liking what's happening in cinemas, and they're watching other stuff which they find to be better quality, then there would be a demand for Marathi language youth skewed entertainment. And that was what ended up being true. So we sort of tested the hypothesis when we launched our YouTube channel, and we got 25,000 subscribers in a month from zero. Wow. And that was like a huge proof of concept for us. And we got a lot of offers at that time, why don't you join our multi-channel network, do the same thing, but do it in Hindi. And we at that time said, no, I don't think so, because while you're saying that Hindi is a bigger market and a bigger opportunity, you're thinking in terms of the India scale. But when it comes to a global scale, the Marathi market size is actually quite large.
Is it?
It's the 15th largest language in the world.
Wow.
It's the same size, if not larger, than Telugu, technically. But the film industry is not doing well. And that is the marker that a lot of people use to determine whether there's potential in a market. But when an industry is sort of being mismanaged or not being invested in properly, then you are going to get a struggling industry with a huge population of people who are not content with what's being served. And especially something like film and entertainment, where it is kind of about who you know. It's not really about market factors. If there are no corporates working in the space. So ultimately, that was our goal, was, we wanted to kind of bring in a bit more of a serious business approach. We wanted it to be investment-led, and we wanted to make sure, I'm sure I'm going off on a crazy tangent, but the idea was, as a Canadian from a country with like 33 million people at that time, now it's like 40 million because of so many immigrants which have come in the last 10 years. We got 40 million people in Canada, but there's 100 million people in Maharashtra. So as a Canadian, I didn't see that as a small market. It seemed like a really big opportunity. And I think that perspective sort of gave us the clarity that we should go after this.
So awesome. So you didn't think that Bollywood, which is India, and if not Bollywood, there is a large South Indian cinema and that market.
Yeah.
But you really chose, Marathi cinema. But tell me something. So is the brand sponsorship, because it is easy when it comes to, still brands are, and I know I work with one of that. So we are still more inclined or aligned to, integrating into Bollywood, into that kind of cinema. Do you now get brands participating and sponsorships coming for Marathi content?
Yes.
Or
yes.
It's still difficult?
It has only been increasing year on year. Although, with the Indian market in general having a little slowdown, of course,
Yes.
that reflects on everyone's business in the same way. When it comes to brand sponsorships, we've been seeing increases because brands also have learned and understood that the more closely you target your audience, the more effective your advertising will be. National campaigns are still the primary focus because you have such a huge, diverse market. It's really hard to focus every single pocket and have a different strategy for each one.
Right.
But there are a lot of brands who understand, okay, Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu are going to be 70% of our business. So let's, do some separate campaigns targeting those particular markets. And we've been lucky because we've been so persistent. Our company is turning, like the Marathi YouTube channel that we started with, is turning 9 in April 1st.
Wow.
So we have a very long track record of consistency. We've worked with a lot of, national and international brands. So what the brands are seeing is that there can be really effective campaigns done in regional languages. It's more about how they choose to allocate their budgets, what their priorities are that year. And the more we can maintain sort of that track record of success, the more we get repeat clients and the more, other bigger brands are coming back to us.
And that I would agree. So because as CMO today, I'm also looking at more regional, authentic YouTube channels where I would like to advertise as, vis-a-vis going global and in just one language. So yes, if if there is engagement drive, there is ROI, absolutely, I agree with you. So that's what brands are looking for. So Paula, now you've done storytelling on YouTube and on OTT and different screens that you have tried. So what is there the way of storytelling that you thought was right earlier and something has changed now? Have you seen the difference?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that.
Or something you felt was true before is not true anymore. It doesn't hold true anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Let me think of how I can best phrase this, because I think you're touching on a really important point, and that is something which, as a creator and a business person, I feel there's always going to be a push and pull between them. On one side we have this romanticism for film. For feature films, for fiction films.
Right.
But when I got into the film industry, I actually was kind of platform agnostic. I was doing YouTube videos when I was in high school. People don't know this about me, but when my very first YouTube channel, I deleted it a long time ago. But I tried to start a makeup vlog, and I was
so Paula that time wanted beauty.
Like 16-year-old me was trying to find an excuse to spend more money on makeup.
Yeah, that's a women thing. That's a girl thing, right?
Yeah. Yes. Well, my sister found the YouTube channel. I was so mortified. I ended up deleting it. So that was how I started out. And then I got into making documentaries because I was just fascinated, with like BBC's Planet Earth, and I loved learning new things. And then I got into filmmaking because I realized that my fascination with stories could also translate to screenwriting and directing and, helping other people tell their stories as well. So that's kind of how I got into the fiction storytelling side of it. But still today, I haven't made a film. That being said, when we got into Bhadipa, there's been a huge shift from 9 years ago to today in terms of how people like to consume their entertainment online. When we started Bhadipa, we were starting with, 15, 20-minute sketch videos. Nowadays, that's kind of unheard of. Like, when's the last time you sat down and watched a 10-minute sketch? Forget about 20-minute sketch.
Absolutely.
You don't see it anymore. That's because reels, 90 seconds, 30, 3 minutes, those small jokes, that's enough time actually to tell
a lot of thumb scrolling and thumb scrollers and thumb stoppers, as they call it. It's a lot of scrolling, generation we've got into constantly.
Yeah, and
or it's streaming. Either it's scrolling or it's streaming. So
exactly. So with that, we've seen a change in behavior where people who are seeking out light entertainment are able to get tons of variety and instant stuff thanks to the algorithms. They don't necessarily seek out, a comedy sketch anymore, but they're still willing to spend 8 hours on their screens every day, maybe binging their favorite show.
Absolutely.
With 1-hour episodes. People are watching, 24-hour live streams of gamers. So it's not so much about the length of the content, but how you're choosing to engage with it. We're going to see, in the next year, a revolution with micro dramas in India, 2-minute episodes, vertical series, which have like 50 to 100 episodes of one continuous story.
Wow.
And that is probably going to work because for OTT platforms, they're going to be able to tap into microtransactions rather than one, annual subscription. So, 1 rupee per reel, if you start charging that and they're hooked to a story, you're going to end up seeing, people are going to end up spending 50 rupees on one show. Where instead they'll see 350 rupees for an annual subscription and they'll say, not sure about that. But then they'll finish your show in one day.
So it's the content that you engage, content on the go, and you subscribe for that is where you're seeing the micro market or the micro entertainment coming in. Has this happened in any other country or anywhere? It's a great idea.
Yeah. So a lot of people in India and OTT platforms now are taking cues from China. China has turned micro dramas into a multi-billion-dollar industry right now. And so because of that, the success in the Chinese market and the fact that Indian OTTs have struggled to become profitable in the Indian market because it's so different from the Western market, they're saying, okay, maybe the Western model is not working for us. Let's tap in and see what's happening in the Chinese market, in Korean markets.
Yes, K-dramas. And I didn't know there was this whole micro entertainment. So you're just saying it is under 2 minutes, is it? Or it's under...
Yeah, it's a new thing, and we'll start seeing it kind of take off in India this year.
So you guys are planned for Bhadipa doing that?
Yeah, we're developing some stories. Right now, we're developing it for other platforms, but definitely it's on the cards for Bhadipa to produce our own as well.
So Paula, now coming to more as a woman, now you've taken up a role as a CEO, as a founder, done so much of production, direction work, and trying to alter, bringing in the new way of doing things with digital YouTube channels and the digital way of doing entertainment. So have you felt, got resistance because it's still a man's world? So being a woman out there, did you feel that, being in the center stage, that you had a lot of resistance and you really had to give in what your vision was or to change things around to keep people happy?
I think I'm very lucky in a few ways. Very privileged is another way of putting that. But I've not personally noticed a huge amount of resistance where I can say I've had to fight my way up through a man's world. Because number one, I'm a foreigner. So unfortunately, for Indian women, they are also seen differently from how I am seen. Now, not always good or bad on either side, but being a foreign woman means that I'm also confused sometimes. Is the man not including me in the conversation because I'm a woman or because he can't speak English confidently and maybe is not sure if I'm going to understand his Marathi or his Hindi? So there is that benefit of the doubt that I would be more than happy to give the men who don't include me in the conversations, that maybe they just get intimidated by the English or something like that. But
That you'll be facing a lot because, and you really
Yeah.
being nice to give them benefit of doubt. I mean, have you really felt that, they've really kept you out because you're a foreigner, or?
Well, sometimes I also get in because I'm a foreigner. And,
That's all.
I get my foot in the door a lot of the times because people find it fascinating that I'm here and they want to know more. And in that sense, I'm privileged in that way. When I came here, I was a hot young 23-year-old in India. So I'm sure I got a lot of meetings I probably wouldn't have
Otherwise.
if I was a man or if I was an Indian woman. I fully acknowledge that. Back then, I don't think I was quite so ready to acknowledge it because I wanted to believe it was due to my brilliant ideas and merit. But as you age, you start to sort of have that hindsight and realize, like, okay, maybe that's why I got my foot in the door back then. But, I ended up partnering with Sarang and Anusha, both of whom have very much the shared, feminist ideals that I have. Sarang has worked with some really iconic people from, the LGBT community, iconic feminists like Sumitra Bhave and Sunil Suktankar in their films. So he's also, as a young Indian man, thankfully had some really great women in his life, including, his mother, to sort of give him that perspective where he, myself, and Anusha have always had a very good sort of dynamic when it comes to running the company. Sarang, in our corporate meetings, sometimes we'd go to these advertising agencies to pitch, and Anusha has written the script. I'm the one who knows the budget, and the men in the room would direct all their questions to Sarang, and Sarang might patiently answer once, but then after a point he'll say, Anusha's written the script, why don't you ask her? Or, Paula's actually made the budget, she can answer that better. And so having, an ally like that, who is also, your partner in business and in life, has definitely shielded me, I think, from a lot of, other ways that it could have gone. So I do think I'm really fortunate that way. But I also think, as I've aged, I feel a lot of frustration and especially like post MeToo situation that happened in India, I really feel responsible for making sure that younger people coming into the industry are aware and educated about the injustices and the sort of predatory behavior that does happen in the film industry. I've had, recently I've had people, influencers, actresses, come to me and say, hey, these directors, they told me that I have to compromise or whatever. And the fact that I said no, they said, okay, well, you're never going to get ahead in this industry because that's how it works. And I get so angry because I feel like, well, that's not how it works for our company. That's not how it works for the people we work with.
Paula, you never had that when you came early. You were young, you were a foreigner, a fair girl, fair woman is what Indian men get attracted to still. So you didn't have anybody trying to tell you at that time, that you will have to compromise to...
I guess probably I didn't want what they had to offer badly enough that they sensed they could get away with that. Maybe. No, I think when you want to be an actor, you inherently need to put yourself in that subservient position until you're famous. You have to be in the position where you're giving me a chance. You're giving me an opportunity, and the person in power is the one doing the casting, doing the producing, taking the calls, deciding how much money you get paid. And those are the people who are making women feel unsafe and asking them to do these things. If you're unlucky and those are some of your first interactions in the business, it can really make you feel that this is how it works. And I really feel like with the film industry and entertainment industry in general, it's so much about how many people who do you trust, and the people you end up sort of bonding with, because it's kind of like the restaurant industry. You end up spending your full lives with these people. You're working 7 days a week most of the time your socializing is also with the same group of people, because that's how you end up getting a lot of work, because you have to be there at the parties and the awards and all of that stuff. So you end up socializing with all these people, and the people you end up forming your closest bonds with are eventually the people you will continue your career with. And it's very hard to sort of shift from clique to clique, jumping from one group to the next.
It's a very closed loop inner circle. I don't think
it is. People generally tend to work with people that they know and the people who they trust. And so, whether that's a group with men who are feminist allies, or it's a group of people who, want to take advantage of people, it is probably, I would say, I couldn't even give you a percentage of, how much of the industry is like this, how much of the industry is not like this. But I know for a fact that when I was coming into the industry, I had my fair share of harassment when I was doing a bit of acting. But as a writer and as a, aspiring director and as a producer, I didn't face it. And maybe partly is because I have been in a long-term relationship with Sarang. I don't want to discount the fact that I've not been single and the person that I'm in a relationship with is known to the industry. That has also been a privilege and a barrier that's probably saved me from a lot of this stuff, where now I have that sort of mental space and I can look back at my experience of harassment. I can also take those responsible steps as a businesswoman. And, as soon as we had, more than 10 employees at our company, we formed a POSH committee, prevention of sexual harassment at the workplace.
Very nice.
This happened around the same time MeToo happened. We got our funding, and then we were able to get an office and grow and get employees just after MeToo. So thankfully, there was also a lot of awareness that even we got because of that. So we have a POSH committee, so anybody who has a complaint on a film set or in the office, they can come in and they can register a complaint with the committee, and none of the bosses are allowed to be on the committee because...
Well, that's very nice. This is really working like a corporate where you need to have a POSH committee and all. And is this there in every other, other corporates that you have, the entertainment companies?
So the rule is, and this is where I want to, look into the camera and say, any business in the state of Maharashtra, which has more than 10 employees, is required to have a prevention of sexual harassment policy and internal complaints committee. It's required.
Wow, but I have not heard of this.
People don't know.
Yes.
People don't know. But that committee, if a case comes to that committee, they are functionally a legal body who can dispense punishments and judgments according to the severity of, the harassment that's occurred. So that's one thing I love to talk about publicly and make sure people know, if you're at a studio, you're working in a small business, if there's more than 10 employees, you should go tell your bosses, like, hey, if you don't have this committee or you don't do training every year, you're technically in breach of the POSH Act. So that's one thing that I want people to know more about. A lot of people don't know it. And
I don't think even on the other side, it is such a stringent policy. Like, whilst it's there, nobody's really auditing or nobody's questioning when you don't have it.
Well, that's the thing.
That's the problem.
Investors will do it.
Yeah.
And your employees will do it.
Correct.
So that's why I'm saying, if you're working in this company, you have every right to raise this with your HR, or if you don't have an HR, with your boss, whoever's hired you, whoever's paying your salary. Even if you're a contractor, but you're at the office every day, that technically can count as being an employee.
Absolutely.
You don't need to be, on a scheme or anything, getting retirement funds. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, this idea that the industry, especially for young women, you don't even have to be an actor. You can be an influencer. You can be a young writer or somebody wanting to get into cinematography. If somebody comes and tells you that, okay, well, what are you going to give me in return for the job? You say you're going to get my best work, you're going to pay me and I'm going to give you my best work. And if they hint at anything other than that, walk away and tell as many people as you can that this has happened to you with this person. name them. I'm not saying you have to go on social media and out them, because we all know that's not very effective and can put a target on your back. But at least within your community and the people who you're working with, I fully think that we should be naming people so that people are aware and they know, and then you can choose, and you see that somebody's still working with them even after telling them that, hey, this person's like this, then you can choose not to work with that person also.
Yeah. But that courage to really walk out and call, the whole naming and shaming is where you really see that women should do entering the entertainment.
Definitely in private
Yeah.
spaces.
Yes.
I think women should be more comfortable sharing this information in private spaces. And that also comes with women not judging others. We do that a lot.
Yes,
It's very
women.
easy to say, oh, but then like, what were you wearing? Or like,
Yeah.
did you meet him in the hotel room or did you meet him in the lobby?
Well, that's something I always, women don't stand up for women. I've seen very often women judging other women and actually making these kind of comments. And I think that's what also needs to change. Maybe
Yeah.
in your storytelling, Paula, maybe someday when you're making this micro entertainment, bring some of these topics out, because
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like through entertainment, that's one thing you can do.
a lot of
But
messages
mentorship or just, frank conversations with the women that you work with is also required. I think that that's almost more effective, because then people know you're a person that they can trust, that they can come to you with if they have a bad experience.
So do you have these kind of policies at Bhadipa?
Oh, yeah.
So you guys have consciously put this
Yes.
where people can mentor each other and they can come and talk issues freely?
Well, not technically mentorship, but every year we have our sexual harassment awareness and general employee harassment sessions where we do every
Nice.
year. We've got our POSH committee, and when people come in and join, we make sure that they're aware of all of this stuff. But the mentorship is something which I've recently sort of gotten more interested in, and making sure I talk to more women about it. Just because of the most recent complaints that I've heard, I thought, damn it, like these
So
are...
what are the kind of complaints? Can you share?
I mean, I don't want to go into a space where I could potentially identify the victims, but I'm talking about directors and producers in the Marathi industry, in web series and films, who have told actresses, either they've cast them in a small role and then removed their part after they didn't do what they wanted. Had cut their scenes out as a punishment. I've heard about directors, maybe there was a relationship in the past and now they're using that against her, going ahead into further work. These kinds of things, it's fine to have a relationship in the past, but that doesn't mean that it's going to continue.
Absolutely.
So these kinds of things keep coming up, and it's these kind of gray areas where things get the most confusing. And then I feel like it's, we're not talking about outright, criminal cases, but even just people hinting around certain topics that you should do this for me, quid pro quo, that kind of stuff. It's very much difficult to prove, difficult to pin down, and that's why I feel like it's really important for women to kind of discuss it privately and kind of make each other aware.
Now, coming to the success stories, we're talking about the content. Shantit, Kranti was a major hit for you. But so how was that, whilst you made it a hit, or it was a hit, but behind the scenes, were there challenges, things that you faced, and how did you tackle that, without really compromising?
I think for us, we were extremely happy to finally make Shantit Kranti when we did. It was a challenge for us to make the show, not once we got, TVF and Sony Live on board, but the fact that we started developing the show in 2014, which was, I think, like 3 or 4 years before Netflix or anybody came to India for the first time, which I think happened in 2017. So when we started developing, we knew that India is obviously going to start making series soon. We didn't have the OTT platforms, but we did have television and we had film, and it just seemed like a natural next step since Indians are consuming web series. So we started developing it back then. One of the best things about Shantit Kranti is I feel like it had such a unique premise that it was super interesting to bring audiences on board and say, okay, it's 3 guys, they're obsessed with Dil Chahta Hai because, they grew up at that time. And instead of going to Goa for their regular, boys trip, they end up getting sort of tricked into going to a meditation retreat and have to face the reality of life and realize that it's not going to be a Bollywood film for them. And that was a really exciting thing for me. At that time when I started the project, it was Anusha and Abhay Mahajan who were writing it. And I was kind of backing it as a development producer from the company side. Same with Sarang. And then eventually Sarang wrote the pilot episode. And then by the time we got greenlit to make the show, Anusha was busy directing our first Hindi show, which is unfortunately not released. But because of that, they asked, for Sarang and I to co-direct it. And I was really excited because I hadn't planned on directing it, but I got to kind of come in with these ready scripts and sort of jump in and throw my 2 cents onto it. And for me, the biggest and most exciting thing was obviously, apart from working with the actors and the amazing talent we got, I had a great time working on the music. Because for me, music has always been a passion.
Yeah, that's your passion, right?
Something I really want to do more of, even with Bhadipa in the Marathi space. But working with the composers and trying to find a fresh sound that kind of represented, the fans of Dil Chahta Hai, meeting, these young boys who were partying and like listening to a Daft Punk at the same time, bringing those together. That was really fun for me.
I'm sure. I think if you've proven time and again, if you're passionate about something, you make it happen. So
Can you
I'm
see
sure
the sparkle in my
eye. So now working with your, husband, like usually, like if you ask me and my husband, if we have to work together, no way. We will be a disaster recipe together for sure. Because whilst we love many things doing together, but we can't work because one will keep pointing to the other. So do you and Sarang face these? I mean, are those kind of quirks? So how have you really managed working and co-creating things together?
So Sarang and I actually started working together and then we fell in love. So that has always been a benefit for us, that we met on a shoot and, we bonded because of what was going on that project. And
but you don't carry your fights back to work? Because now that, sometimes the other way around, now we're in love, we're living together and taking that back to work. Does that happen?
I think we have way more work fights than we have relationship, personal fights. And I'm really thankful for that. I think the hardest thing for us is, not to take the work baggage home, especially when things are, you have your ups and downs, and when it's up, it's great. There's never any issues. But when things are going down and you're going through a rough phase or like a rough patch with work, maybe it's been slow, or maybe you didn't get the project which you were hoping for, that you were pitching for. Those stresses can definitely, they don't just get left in your laptop. They keep you awake at night and that kind of stuff. Definitely Sarang and I have to keep reminding each other of, hey, I'm upset about this. It's nothing to do with you. It's nothing to do with us. Very happy in the relationship. Don't worry about that. We do make those points to just kind of remind each other that like, hey, it's not an us problem.
Who's helping whom? Who's making up?
We take turns.
You take turns.
Yeah. I think Sarang and I are complementary in that way. Like,
nice.
He's very good with visuals. I'm very good with sound. He's very good with, maybe last minute deadlines. I'm very good with planning and strategy. So we complement each other in that way. And thankfully our ups and downs have not been in sync fully. So it's worked out.
So Paula, what advice would you give to young filmmakers or entrepreneurs who are, who are dreaming of going through the, unbeaten path, not the regular path, but they carry a lot of fear and they are not breaking the barriers? And because you've done some of these things, so what advice would you give them?
The advice I give to everyone is to find your people. You don't need to do it alone, and doing it alone, frankly, would be impossible. So you do need to find the people who the people who are like-minded, the people who share your values. Maybe they are not fully convinced by your idea, but at least, morally, ethically, they'll be behind the way you do it, the way you try and execute it. And so long as you feel like, you know what, maybe my idea, it's not going to work out in the end. But if I can be proud of myself as a person at the end of that, and I have the support of these people around me, that's what will kind of keep you going after that failure. So not being scared of it perhaps not working out, but knowing that working towards a success is still going to strengthen your relationships, give you valuable experience, and help you learn something new. These are the things that you should be focusing on rather than the outcome. Because I did not come to India thinking I was going to start a Marathi YouTube channel with, almost, 2 million subscribers. Like, I definitely didn't imagine that was going to happen. I thought I was going to make a movie and then go back to Canada. So,
and you're here and you've stayed and you've conquered.
And only because of the people I know. That's it.
But that's amazing. So you need to have your own cheerleaders, your people, so that you at least enjoy the process and not give up.
Yes.
Is what I hear you say. No, awesome. So what next? What is the vision for the future for Bhadipa? Where do you see it going?
Gosh, films and music, films and music, films and music.
The next 5 years? With AI coming in, technology changing, and...
We'll use AI, why not? We'll help develop a Marathi language AI, why not? I just feel like these technological improvements and advances are inevitable. It's really about how you choose to implement them, how you choose to find value in them, not being scared of them. And I think so long as you kind of educate yourself when these things come out and you understand the ethical problems, then, you're in a good position to sort of navigate through the future, whatever that may be.
Let's do the rapid fire. So quickly, Paula, so now just for fun and engagement so that we can, not so much of serious. So one thing that you miss about Canada the most?
Footpaths.
One thing you do before every big pitch or meeting?
Oh, grind my teeth all night.
A trend in digital content that you secretly hate?
False feminism.
Wow, that's strong. A Bollywood movie, web series that you want to remake in Marathi?
That's a good one. Rang De Basante.
Rang De Basante.
Why not?
What's harder, convincing a brand to invest in Marathi content or convincing your family that content creation is a real job?
I like this one. Definitely family is harder to convince.
Yes, still after doing so much.
They don't have degrees in content creation, whereas, marketing people, you could probably convince them using case studies or something, but family's not going to care.
If you had to give your 21-year-old, self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Just trust more women.
Awesome, Paula. And with that, we wrap up. Thank you so much for being on my show. I totally appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure. And thank you for letting me talk about all of these things I get so passionate about.